Hello, my name is Mitchell. I'm a private pilot and I have 72.7 hours total time. It is August 28th. About 18 months ago, I was approved for a loan from Sallie Mae, $120,000. Happy to pay that much if it means I get to pursue my dream of becoming a professional pilot. However, I saw the loan repayment being $1,800 per month. At that point, I realized I didn't know how I would survive while covering an extra $1,800 a month on loan repayments. So I declined the loan, decided I needed to look at alternatives, come up with another plan. This is kind of how it all went down. So the original plan was Part 141, full curriculum, nice syllabus, walk you through all the steps, stage checks along the way, make sure you're on par, and that'll take you from 0 to hero. At least that's what the marketing department says. That sounded good to me. My goal is to fast track this training as soon as possible. I literally already quit my previous career. I left my career in spring of 2023 with no idea what I was going to do next. It was just time for a change. Life circumstances had me in a place where I was leaving that behind and looking for something new moving forward. 6 months of exploring different options, I decided I was going to be a pilot. 6 months later, I intended on pursuing flight training. Less than a year after I quit my last job, I decided, okay, here we go. I'm ready to commit to something. I'm going to do flight training. The 141 school seemed like a good option to get me through as quickly as possible so that I can get a job moving forward. In the meantime, I was just working odd jobs, whatever comes up, which is fine for a time being, but to me, not sustainable for years on end. So I really want to get a job as a pilot as soon as possible. Even a low-end job, that's fine. Not making very much money, that's fine. If I'm building hours, in my mind, that is a very valuable form of compensation. So I am happy to be in a low-paying job, whether it's a CFI or some other low-time job, that's fine, as long as I can get there as soon as possible. So I looked at this 141 school. I thought that seemed like a good option. The loan was not favorable, in my opinion. So there are times in my life where I have maybe made a maximum take home of $2,500 per month. If $1,800 of that is going to loans, that means I have to survive on $700 of cash. That's not really going, maybe if I live in my parents' basement, I can afford to eat at least. But that's not sustainable. And I don't necessarily have a convenient way of boosting my income above that level. There are times when I've made twice that amount of money per month, but it usually involves side hustles, second jobs, extra hours, overtime, something that's not necessarily what I would call stable or dependable. So I decided to throw out plan A, call an audible, figure out something else. I still am feeling urgent, so I decided to go Part 61, get a private pilot's license, get that done as soon as possible, and then figure out the rest after that. The nice thing about my circumstances was I knew probably 7 people that owned a plane that probably would have taken me flying for little to no charge. So if I was a private pilot, theoretically, one of us could have put on foggles and I could have been building time for free. So I really thought becoming a private pilot as soon as possible was very valuable because I may have been able to build time at a discounted rate once I had that license. So I decided I needed to get that as soon as possible. I would figure out the rest of training after that. So I saved some money for a period of time, maybe 6 months, and then pretty much the beginning of 2025, January, that's when I started full-on training. About 15 hours a week is what I scheduled. Weather cancellations in the Mountain West in January provided up to 40% cancellation rate. So I wasn't flying 15 hours a week, but I scheduled 15 hours a week with the plane, and flew, at least half that until I was in a position where I was able to cancel some of those flight lessons. I got my private pilot's license done in, I don't know, about 85 days or something, was kind of like the core training session by the time I had finished my my check ride. So that was a pretty good pace. I think I spent maybe $15,000 or $16,000, and that includes the Lightspeed headset and some cool little items like a phone mount and a knee board or whatever. I wasn't able to save up $15,000 prior to flight training, so I was working a job while I was doing flight training, and I used a couple of 0% intro credit cards to wrap up the last bits of training once I had run out of money. Tangent: do not run out of money when training for your private pilot's license. Incredibly discouraging. You hear it all over the place, online and through podcasts and all sorts of things. Get extra money prepared for this process. Being financially stressed during the training process, not good. The training process is stressful enough, so to throw financial stress on top of it, that's unnecessary, not good. So I decided, after getting the private pilot's license, for the next training phase, I would see if I could get a smaller loan. Instead of a $120,000 loan, what's the smallest loan I could get to cover the most essential training? What's the minimum training required to get to the next time building phase? Obviously, instrument rating, commercial, that's typical. And then CFI, multi-engine are some options. I decided to think about reverse engineering the loan. What is the maximum monthly payment that I might feel comfortable making for the next several to 5, 6, 7 years before I'm in a higher earning position? What monthly payment am I willing to take on in order to be a pilot? What tax am I willing to pay to step into the world of professional aviation? I decided $700 per month. For me, a side gig, bartending or serving tables, $700 a month. That's, a few shifts per month. That'll cover that cost. So I just need to be in a position where I can pick up a side gig, a few shifts per month. Maybe one shift per week would cover that loan on top of my basic living expenses. So I decided $700 a month based on current interest rates and my credit score. What can I get? I'm crossing my fingers for $60,000. I'm going to be applying for this loan in about 4 weeks, trying to get something together. I'm hoping for $60,000 at $700 a month. That's the plan. How much training can $60,000 get me? It can definitely get me an instrument and likely a commercial. Can I also squeeze in a multi-engine and or CFI? that's when it starts to get really tight. I'm not sure. It's not going to cover everything I want. You know, ideally I have the multi-engine and the CFI. It's not going to cover all of that, unfortunately. I'll have to decide what to do when the time comes. Maybe I'll talk to a lender and maybe a $70,000 or $80,000 loan is a possibility. If I can somehow pull that off with a loan repayment of $700 per month at the most, I think I would go through with that, just to ensure that I have as many ratings as possible so that I can be marketable to potential employers. The bottom line is, if the loan's too big, I can't survive. I can't afford $1,800 a month. I've talked to people that are $2,200 a month on their flight loans. $2,700 per month on their flight loans. And they're saying, well, I'm going to be an airline pilot. Not next year, not the year after that, someday, perhaps. I don't know. That's insane. Unless you build in a plan of defaulting on your loans. If that's part of your plan, go for it. It's not part of my plan. But I can't go zero loans. What's the most money I've ever been able to put to savings in a month? Maybe $2,000 in a month. That's the absolute max I've ever been able to set aside in a month. Oftentimes, maybe $1,000 is reasonable. I should be able to come up with an extra $1,000 a month I can set aside for savings. $1,000 a month to do $60,000 worth of flight training? It's going to take me 5 years before I'm marketable to employers to get compensated for time building. I cannot postpone the time building process 5 years. I need to expedite it in some way. Finance. So that's the plan right now. In 4 weeks, I'm going to be in a position where I think I'm ready to apply for loans and see what happens. Up until that point, I'll just be preparing, doing some more ground school, and maybe split some time with a friend or two for fun in the meantime to keep me fresh. But we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. Good day.